Sometimes I feel like top tens are hard because it's just like you got to come up with a really, really good 10. This one was more just like these all came really naturally, and honestly, I probably could have done more and had to winnow it down. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about my top 10 characters. And while this is, a 10, it's more just like this is a list. So we're not going in any necessarily particular order. This is the order that I ended up just kind of going and doing with them. This was a video that was picked out by one of my patrons, Heidi. I do have a perk where you get to pick out a video idea quarterly, and this is the one that she did want to see top characters. And it was very easy to find 10 characters that I love. I'm sure there's more too, but like I said, I didn't want to have to winnow it down because I got my 10 really easily. And so let's talk about them. Again, no particular order, but we will give them a mention. So first of all, and the only one that is two characters, I was really good about actually following and doing only single characters. But first, I had to mention Donut and Carl from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I still don't have a physical copy of it yet because I'm waiting on the Kickstarter to come through. But Donut and Carl kind of together because if I had to pick, I'm probably leaning Carl, but just as a duo, they're such a great duo as well, and I love them. And Dungeon Crawler Carl remains one of those series that I'm still kind of surprised that I like because it's so different from my normal kind of thing, but it's just so good. And those two are a huge part of it. So I definitely will mention them. They're on the top 10 together. Everybody else is a single character though, I promise. So the next up one I have to mention, and one I know that is definitely lesser known, but Saltheart Foamfollower from the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. So in the original trilogy, which it's Saltheart Foamfollower is a giant, and they're big on ships, if you can't tell from the name specifically, and the giants in general, their tragic storyline and everything that they go through, their history are great. But Saltheart Foamfollower is just such an amazing character, and if I forever for a moment even doubted the inclusion on like a favorite characters of all time list, as I read the second trilogy, which this character is not in but is mentioned and remembered and just still had such an impact, it just reminded me of how amazing that character is. So definitely a character that belongs here. And if you know with Saltheart, like I said, probably lesser well known than anybody else on this list, but very, very, very deserving of being on the list. Then next up, absolutely have to give a mention to Druss the Legend here, who looks like Sean Connery on here. I don't think that's actually going to focus, but who looks like Sean Connery on here on the small cover here as well. And Druss is just such a great character. And the Drunai Saga in general had a lot of great characters, and a lot of them followed kind of similar archetypes, which is why I picked Druss. But just such a hero, but also with more depth. And the fact that you kind of get to know him in reverse order, where in Legend, the first published book, he is older and he's kind of the, sort of washed up older, not the same, but he's still trying to fulfill the role of the hero. And then you get to see him in several other books, including some that are specifically like backstory, like we're seeing the things that happen that we'd heard about. So just a character that unique way that you get the backstory as well works really, really well. And heroic character with a lot of heart, and just is trying to really live up to being a hero while also not really seeing himself as anything special. One of the recurring lines that you get through here is like, oh, you think I'm brave because I'm a soldier? Try being a farmer. That takes way more bravery to just keep going and trying even if it fails. And so it's just everything about Druss. Such a great hero, such a great character, and one that I absolutely, absolutely love. And next up, another character that absolutely does deserve to be on the list is Kaladin from the Stormlight Archive, and specifically Way of Kings, which while you may have seen, my thoughts on the series have definitely soured, but the Way of Kings especially will always be a book that I love, and Kaladin especially is just a character that I really did connect with in this book, and throughout his arc. And so absolutely still a character that I love, even if the series is it's not going to end up being a favorite series for me overall. Still definitely the character I think belongs on this list. Most people are familiar with Kaladin. It's a pretty popular favorite character from the series as well, but just one that I connected with quite a lot. I love this book. I've read Way of Kings a bunch of times, and will still probably read it in the future, but a character that definitely deserves to be on the list. And then we have one of the newer additions to the list, but that also absolutely fits, which is Jinid Brostin from the Kaladin cycle. I have here the first book, Deathless Beasts, in this hardcover format. And Jinid is a character that the more and more I read, the character I absolutely love. And it's interesting because the character is not like your typical character that's like has a really big personality. I feel like a lot of times favorite characters have big personalities. Jinid is extremely reserved. He is a paladin, but he's very thoughtful and really trying to do the right thing. And he ends up getting pulled into a much bigger situations as he goes. But it's just like very thoughtful, very methodical with how he's looking at things, and it's just his personality and his demeanor, even though it's a little bit reserved at times, is just fantastic, and a character that I just could not get enough of as I was reading the Kaladin Saga, which is a series that I also have absolutely loved. And so, I absolutely belongs here, and I immediately am thinking of some of the ways too, the way he's narrated and the audios, which the author does, it just fits so well, and is a character that I quite love. And then, like I said, this list is in no particular order, because if you're making an argument for favorite character of all time, this one has pretty good chances of getting that. But Arithon Cephalon from the Wars of Light and Shadow, here at the last book, The Song of the Mysteries, and this just solidified Arithon as such a favorite character. The book Arithon is really the main character. There are other characters that have a lot of time as well, but Arithon is really the main character of the series. And just very quickly from the first book, I was sold on Arithon the character before I was even sold on like the series as a whole, because immediately it's just Arithon's another character that I connected with, that I really liked reading and just going on his character journey. I feel like I got to spend more time and really get to know Arithon than almost any other character I've ever read, which for a character that I connected with very quickly, it was a great time. And especially the last book, so many things that I just absolutely loved with the character and going. And Arithon is just a fantastic character, as I know a lot of people are reading Wars of Light and Shadow right now, that you should all be finding out. But definitely in that argument for your favorite character of all time, just a phenomenal character that I absolutely love as well. Yeah, definitely in the argument for potentially favorite character of all time. And Arithon's another one that's a bit different. And part of, with the series, he's smaller frame, he's dark haired, he's soft spoken. He doesn't really want to, go fight or be a king. He wants to play his music and that kind of thing as well. And so a different kind of character, and one that, has flaws as well, is not just the typical heroic character. And that's part of the, the point. But just one that, I connected with and really enjoyed. Then next up, and probably makes the argument almost for another dual character, even though the second one's an animal companion more so than a character. But gotta talk Binabik from Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And Kintaga, his trusty wolf mount, who is one of my favorite animal companions when you're talking animal companions. But I love Binabik. Plays kind of the wise role, like the Yoda type of role, or just, that type of advisor, but has all these just fantastic sayings. Also, it's crazy how, not doing audio at all for this, but doing some for Last King of Ostenar, that series, the way that the voice is done in the audio versus the way that I heard it in my head, one of the few times that just matched, because you just kind of hear it, and that voice. Binabik is a troll, very wise, lots of fun sayings, and just a character that I was just delighted every time Binabik was on the page. I knew I was going to have a great time, and so it was really great, too, in the original trilogy, and then seeing how everything's changed later on as well, but just absolutely fantastic character as well. I seem to be discovering more and more, apparently, that I definitely have a type with the kind of sad, tragic characters, because next up we have Alain, which I've always pronounced Alain, and I still want to pronounce Alain, but I'm trying to do it right, from Crown of Stars. This is actually the last book, but since he's on the cover, I figured I would grab this one. And Alain, because saying Alain just sounds weird, it's spelled Alian, and apparently Alain is the actual correct pronunciation, but it's just, I don't know, it's always going to be Alain to me, but is a character, again, who I latched onto very quickly. He starts off as kind of young, naive, and it seems that he's kind of the orphan boy with the mysterious parentage, kind of following that arc, though it goes in very different directions, but it just has a lot of bad things happen to him, has a very a very tragic life and a lot of things going on, but is still always like pushing forward and has hope and still trying to do the right thing. And so it's a character that I connected with, I really, really felt for, but I also just appreciated the resiliency that you see in the character, which is a bit different than the next character that we're going to talk about, who's also a bit more of like the sad boy type of character. Apparently, I really, really do just have a character archetype, but the last two will break up. But I figured these ones make sense to do together because you might have guessed it, but we're talking about FitzChivalry Farseer from the realm of the Elderlings. And again, we start here with Fitz, a lot of very tragic things, and it's just a character that I really did feel for. I feel like I didn't identify with Fitz nearly so much as I just got clicked and really felt for the character and was engaged in his story. But Fitz there's a lot of tragic things that happen to him. He also tends to get himself into a lot of situations and does some really dumb things every now and then. But it's just kind of the character that I felt like I did feel for more than I identified with. Just like a character I almost brought up from Memory Star of Thorn, Simon, who's just kind of like, he's a moon calf. He's young, he's naive, and so I felt that there didn't quite make this list. Went with Binabik from that series as well, of course, since we already talked about that one. But Fitz in his story, especially through the Tawny Man trilogy, going through there, a tragic character and so many things, but a character that's very near and dear to my heart for sure here as well. I promise, though, we're not doing sad characters for the rest, at least with these last two. So I feel like these last two also definitely feel like they belong in potential favorite characters of all time category as well, which is just sort of the way that it went out. But we got to talk about Matt Cauthon from the Wheel of Time. I've always been a Matt fan, and it's one of those things that's fun because people are always like, they start reading, they're like, why does everybody love Matt so much? Like, he's not the best guy, he's not the greatest character, but it's because I've read so often the series, and it's a lot of the stuff that happens way later that I really like with his character as well. With like Knife of Dreams being my favorite book of the series, just because there's a lot of Matt stuff there that I really, really enjoy. And it's just a character that, he's cocky, he's a gambler, he definitely complains and has some habits that aren't the best, but part of it too is with Matt, is just the plot lines, the things he's doing were some of my favorite in the Wheel of Time. So I feel like it's partially just like I really, really enjoyed his plot lines, and I read them so often, I really got to know all of the characters that Matt was solidified really there as a character that I really enjoyed as well, which I know, again, is not a super uncommon take as well with that, but Matt's a great character, especially in the later books, and I enjoyed quite a lot of his stuff and his antics as well. And then finally, and you may have been wondering where this character was, and if this was going to be a twist. No, it's not. I feel like it's not going to be a surprise that Huvar from the Chronicles of Huvar, I have here the first book, Lord of the Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones. I absolutely love this series, and Huvar as a character is such a big part of that. Huvar is a great character for so many reasons. He's older. We're seeing him, instead of like the series focusing on when he was a general with all of his wars with Derva, which is kind of showing he's kind of a Hannibal alternate look, with Derva being the Roman Empire. We're seeing all these things, but this is after. He's older, he's wiser, he's more level-headed, but he is just a character that has such a strength of will and honor. And he will find a way to figure things out, even if he doesn't have a good way, even against the odds. And it's just, there are very few characters that I have just loved reading about so much as Huvar. Phenomenal series, and Huvar is, again, arguably one of my favorites, if not arguably my favorite. I feel like between, it's really hard to pick two, but Arithon, Huvar, Matt, all definitely in there, as well as this is why I didn't want to actually rank these, because it would have just been so hard. But I feel like finishing with Huvar is great. Again, I can't recommend that series enough. Huvar Chronicles, the 3 books out, is a complete arc, and it is phenomenal. Huvar is just such a great character. But there you have it. Those are my top 10 characters in no particular order. I'm sure there's some that I missed, but let me know some of your favorite favorite characters, whether they're on this list or whether they're not, because it's always really interesting seeing what everybody's favorite characters are. I'm sure there's some of you that definitely have some of the same, but I'm sure there are a lot of you who don't know some of these characters even, so it can go both ways there. But let me know yours in the comments down below. But make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description as always for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat about books, whether any of the books these characters appear in, any books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.